What happens when the thing you've barely dared to dream for actually comes true? How does it change you when what you've been believing for and almost given up hope on finally becomes reality? The Redefining Possible podcast spotlights guests with stories of insurmountable odds who have witnessed the impossible become possible with God. Hi, welcome to Redefining Possible. I'm your host, Peyton Hoffman, and with me today is Sarah Wilson, the CEO of Harvest Home. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
So amazing to have you on. I am so excited to talk to you. I'm so excited to talk about how the Lord has moved for you, for Harvest Home. But first, for those that are around the country and not in LA, are not familiar with Harvest Home and what you guys do, can you share a little bit about that first?
Yes, absolutely. So Harvest Home, we are a nonprofit organization ministry here in Los Angeles. Our primary mission is providing housing and support to unhoused pregnant women. So walking alongside women during this really vulnerable time in their lives when they are experiencing both homelessness, not having housing, but also pregnancy at the same time. And so we provide for those physical needs, housing, support, the food, all of those things. But it's really the relational support and the programming and all of those things that really are truly life-changing in the women's lives.
I love it. And you guys have been established for how many years?
So this is actually our 40th anniversary.
No, 40 years.
This has been our 40th year.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Oh, I was thinking maybe 20, but it's literally double what I was thinking. That's insane. That's wild. That's just wild that the Lord's moved so much in LA through Harvest Home already. So tell us your role. You've headed up Harvest Home for several years now. Take us back to kind of where Harvest Home was before COVID and what you'd been praying about, what you were really, hoping for, and just where things were at for that.
Okay, absolutely. So I serve as the executive director, been in my role since 2013, so almost 13 years. And if it's okay, I'd back up a little bit before
of course,
COVID.
Absolutely.
So, I would say about 10 years ago, we were at a place with our board, at that point, it was actually our 30th anniversary, I think back to when it was, and really seeing how God had carried Harvest Home through, 3 decades. And there's I think there's been this thread of miraculous provision all through the years. For the first 15 years of the organization, it was completely volunteer-led, like full-time executive director who was a volunteer.
15 years. That's crazy.
So thinking about, often I look back and I'm like, this organization really shouldn't even be here today. And so when I stepped into the role 13 years ago, I was only the third executive director ever to step into the role. So, it had been a lot of long, persevering love in the leadership for the organization. And very, very clearly, just that God had provided and brought the right people for the right time. And when I stepped into the role, the board was really clear that they had this vision for the mission to continue to grow. And that was really energizing to me as a leader. I'm, visionary, and that was really exciting to me. And so, a couple years in, about 10 years ago, we had this conversation with the board of where are the opportunities? What are we seeing? Like, what does expansion look like? And at that time, so we serve this very specific population, women who are both unhoused and experiencing, pregnancy at the same time. But at the time, there was a number that around 5,000 women in Los Angeles County alone had that experience in an average year.
Wow.
And at the time,
just in LA.
And this was based on a study that was self-reporting to OBs. So it was, it was data driven. And at the time we had one home in Venice, this 10-bedroom beach house in Venice Beach. And what we were seeing is real long-term, long-standing growth and change that was happening in women's lives. But seeing in an average year, we had about 20 to 25 women coming through our program. And so just this, how do we do more? Seeing that there's 5,000 women. And I would always think, like, we don't know the story of what happens, with those other women. And so just this vision of what would it look like for Harvest Home to open a second home.
Wow.
And I mean, at the time, I think that the cash budget of the organization was like less than $500,000 a year. So, to think about some kind of large scale expansion really did feel like impossible, and it felt, I think we always thought it was possible. I think, when you see God's hand so clearly guiding something and providing and protecting for such a long time, it was so clear that provision was there.
Right.
But it also felt like a little crazy to think about expansion. Yeah, absolutely.
Like the bank was not saying the same thing. And to be, just for people again who are not in LA, $500,000 doesn't get you anything in terms of land or property in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah,
so
I mean, yes.
Just to put that out there for folks worth $500,000 does buy a building in different areas of the country.
Exactly,
it does not in LA.
And that was our annual operating budget. So not even beyond
not even
that.
a piece of that. Yeah,
exactly. But we just really felt very, very clearly. It's interesting. I was in our 40th year this year. One of the reflections I've kind of had is like, why this mission? Like, why has God cared for this mission and for these women in such beautiful ways, over the last 4 decades, and obviously beyond that, not just through our mission. But
it's amazing.
And, everybody always points to the passage about the widows and orphans.
I was just thinking that when you said it.
I was reading through that passage earlier this year, and right after that, it says, God sets the lonely in families. And that to me is truly what is at the heart of Harvest Home's mission. Yeah. Yes, there is. Yes, you could look at the women we serve and some of those other experiences they certainly have walked through. But Harvest Home is such a family, and while it's women actually literally becoming moms, being set in families in that way, but really the love and support and the way that they experience God's love through our program. I see that so clearly. And so we have this vision of like, how do we bring this to more people? Yeah. And so we looked at different things. Well, maybe, at one point it was like, well, maybe we expand by extending, the length of our program and opening housing for alumni. But we really kept coming back to this number of 5,000 women, just how many women there were. And more. I guess what I should say is it's not like there's 5,000 women and 200 organizations that are doing this in LA.
No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
So we were one of, maybe fewer than 10 organizations. I was going to say less than 10 for sure. And not even that focus on pregnant women. Yeah. That's that even accept pregnant women. Wow, so at the time, it's actually in the last 10 years, it's progressed. More shelters will provide housing to pregnant women. But at the time, it was, if you were pregnant, they didn't have space for you. Wow. And
can I ask, what was the reasoning for that? Is it that they didn't feel medically able to take care of, like, if someone was pregnant?
Yeah, so multiple factors. I think to some degree I think that's a generous way to put it, the liability factor of it. Yeah. But we'll say not equipped.
I mean, I'm wondering, like, not equipped.
Right, of pregnant women. But the liability that can come with that. Mm-hmm. And then some organizations, it was also recognizing we don't have the capacity for children. Okay. And so we would want to see someone get into a more stable place, before a child comes. Okay. So it's complicated, right? Lots of different factors, but really wanting to do more and believing that, God was not done with Harvest Home's mission and that, this one little home, had served so many families, for the last 30 years at that point, recognizing that there was just still room to do more. And so
much need.
So much need. Yeah. And so we really started down this pathway of what does it look like? What would it look like? Is it that we're going to, this home serve 10 women? Are we going to kind of cookie cutter another home that serves 10 women, exactly the same? And so just little by little, we started these like kind of strategic, planning conversations, I guess.
I love it.
So we had and it was all along the way, it was just the right people at the right time. So we ended up having a new board member come on board who was with a well-known strategic planning firm. And so
perfect.
He was like, hey, we got our pro bono team that can come in and, help with developing a strategy. Wow. And I actually remember I got that call the day I returned from maternity leave. Wow. I had this call with him and it felt I felt so provided for in that moment of here I was myself as a new mom, kind of like, oh gosh, I'm trying to, manage all of the new reality of my life.
So much. Yeah.
Right. And to have just the right things at just the right time, dropped in our lap. And so we were, proceeding kind of with these plans of looking where opportunities, might pop up. We thought, would there be an opportunity to buy something? Like you said, that would be expensive, but also as an organization that didn't own property, it was like, well, that could be a really
great
stabilizing, great move.
Yeah.
Would it be finding a property that we could lease? What would this look like? And this group, they actually helped us look at that. They even looked geographically at different places and where the bus lines were to really be able to, be really responsive location for the women that we were serving. Wow. And all along the way, every time I had the opportunity to share someone and to share about our mission, I would always say, hey, if somebody out there has a home, you want to, donate
if
to
you
us.
know anyone.
Exactly. If you know anyone. And it's funny. I mean, I've had people to this day that are like, I was at that place when you said that. I'm like, well, I said it dozens of times.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I mean, I've had people to this day that are like, I was at that place when you said that. I'm like, well, I said it dozens of times.
Yeah.
But a couple years down the line, I got that call. So we got a call out of the blue from the Catholic Archdiocese, Los Angeles Catholic Archdiocese, whom we had never partnered with.
I was going to say, I think that's really important. You had never worked with the Catholic Archdiocese. They did hear about Harvest Home, but they didn't have a connection to you or to the staff, or it wasn't something where it was a natural partner. It was like this random phone call.
Yeah. So, I mean, we are a, non-denominational, faith-based Christian organization, but we didn't have any affiliation with the Catholic Church. We'd never partnered.
And you definitely didn't know the gentleman that called.
Oh no, I thought somebody was playing a joke on us, honestly. I mean, just because it was just so specific and so out of the blue. And I mean, come to find out after the fact, they had done some vetting of us before they called. Right? So they had noticed some partners that we had that they had worked with, and
it made sense.
Kind of checked up on us. And so I mean, that was essentially the call we got, was that they had a convent that these sisters had been in since the 1940s. Wow. That they were going to be vacating, moving back to Ireland. Yep. And this order of nuns, I knew nothing about the Catholic Church, back in 2018, and I know more than I ever thought I would now, which is still not a whole lot. But these nuns had returned; they were going to be returning to Ireland, but they had gotten their start. There was the order was the Sisters of the Holy Faith. Okay, and their order had started the foster system for the children in the potato famine, way back when. What? And they had always worked with women and children. And so they wanted to do something with this property that would really honor the legacy of
women and children,
the women that had been there.
Oh my goodness.
And I think for a second they considered maybe we could start our own thing. And then I think they realized no. Why would we do that when there's people out there that are already being effective in doing that work? And so we had that first conversation,
And what was that? Just so you get the phone call of, we have this property, the nuns are going back to Ireland. Did they say, do you want to come take a look at, what was the offer at that point?
Yeah. So what I think was wild is they had no idea we were looking to expand.
Wow.
They had no idea. And at this time, we had been planting the seeds, doing the groundwork, sowing the ground, so to speak, and just really trusting. And I should say too, about every 6 months, I would kind of stop and go, because all the operational things, to lead up to this point, you can't just go out and start another program. No. And so about every 6 months, I would pause and say, if God dropped a house out of the sky tomorrow, would we be ready for it?
Could we handle it?
And that was kind of my litmus test.
That's so good.
And so, but all of this groundwork was being they had no idea. So it's not like they had heard, Harvest Home's looking to expand. Gotcha. This would be a good fit. They had no idea. They're like, would you guys ever consider opening a second home? It's Well, actually, let me tell you about,
Sarah.
what we have been working on and praying about for the last several years at that point. And so it was that, we did have an initial conversation just to say, like, is it a good fit on both sides?
Of course.
What are their expectations? What are our expectations? But I'll never forget that when we went to see this home.
The first time.
And of course, too, the woman, when she called me to tell me, or, to ask, I had a million questions.
Of course. Yeah.
And I was like, so where is it? And she's like, I don't really know LA's geography that well. And I'm
like, that matters.
I want to know, And so, but it was, I will never forget the first day we went because we had, I shared we had been looking at expanding to do the same thing that we were already doing, right? Thinking, okay, it'll be another home for 10 women. Well, we get there, this home was able to house 17 women at a time. And it has a large, what the nuns were using as a chapel space. Yeah. And at the time we still to some degree do this, but like we were using churches all over LA to host our alumni events. And because we didn't have a space to gather people. Right. So there's a chapel and then there was a basement. Have you ever seen a place in LA that has a basement?
It's so wild. I mean, you can tell, especially something from the 40s to have had, because there were things specifically you needed. Like you needed a commercial grade kitchen because you have that many women. You needed a basement because people give donations. They're donating stuff to you all the time. You needed community area. You needed bedrooms for the individual women, but ideally communal bathrooms where they could like bathe the babies and so kind of like a dorm style setup.
Exactly. Or a sorority home.
Sorority home, dorm style. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
So what was it like when you first walked in there?
Well, because we walk in and I was just counting exits from the home. I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many doors. Like there's so many in external entrances and exits. But recognizing there's this basement and there we were renting office space. So like we were able to, a place to, and so it was just
and this had office space.
Yes, there was space for our offices there. We at the time had a church attic on the west side of LA where we had like all of our diapers stored and all this stuff. Wow. And so for there to be a basement. And so it was just, I just remember this feeling of, okay, in my mind, I thought in my limited like human brain, I'm like, we're going to do just another little cottage. And then here this is like not just doubling, but tripling the size, plus all of these other things. And so it just felt I think to see God be like, yes, and like, I got you, but you know what? Like, you're thinking too small here. We're going to take it to the next it's level. It's an elevation, we're not just doing the same thing twice. We're going to you've grown here. You've expanded. You were busting out of the seams in Venice. And like, this is now, it's the Lord trusting you all with so much more. It is the entrusting, and it also, I think, the stretching of my own faith. Oh, so good. In that, of like, okay, it felt like believing maybe too much of like, could we really do this? Like, would God really trust us with this? And then to see it be that much bigger. And, I think in my human wisdom, I was doing these like 6-month check-ins of like, could we handle this? Could we handle this? Are we ready? And then God essentially was like, you're not ready, but I'm going to give you twice as much. It's kind of what it felt like. Like, we're going to do it anyway. Yeah. Because you're doing it with him. Yeah. There's the proverb, I think it's Proverbs 19 that says, we make plans, but God's purposes will prevail. Yeah. And I think of that often with this. It's like, we have this plan, and I often say like, oh, we'll make a plan and some version of that will happen. Yes. But in this instance, it felt like, okay, we have this plan and we're going to methodically do this. And that God's like, we're going to just my purpose above your own. And I think that the way that it all unfolded was just even more of a faith stretching experience. And so this home this was like 2018, I think, right at the end of the year. This home, this opportunity came before us. And of course, we were just all elated. Our board was so excited. So many people praying for so long. And so it was so exciting to be a part of that. And then we had just signed a lease so we have a long-term lease on the property with the Catholic Church. We had just signed a lease. in January of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
We had just brought in somebody because we're doing a capital campaign.
Yep.
So we had never done a large scale capital campaign. So we brought in, the people who knew what they were doing to help us like develop the strategy and all of the things. And we were going to be launching said capital campaign in May of 2020.
Which, then we have March 2020 and everything shut down.
Exactly.
Completely.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
At the heart of fundraising really is connecting with people.
Yeah.
We have this beautiful, it needed a lot of work, but you could just walking in this space, you could see what it would look like and feel like to have these 17 families served there. And then we can't show anybody, we can't share, we can't do anything in person. And at the time for me personally, I had a 2-year-old.
Yes.
And so COVID starts, I have a 2-year-old, we're trying to, we have to do a full scale renovation.
Wow. Yes. On the property.
Yeah. We have to do a renovation on the property. We don't have a contractor, or anything like that. We don't have an architect. And I just remember, and I think too, it's sometimes you look back and things obviously with more clarity than you have at the time.
Of course.
And at no point did I feel like, well, this is not going to happen.
Okay. Good.
At no point did I feel like, well, that was that. But it did feel like, man, why can't things why can't things ever just be easy? Why can't things? And, what I see in this, and I think this is the lesson I continually learn in my life, is that it's not about the things we can do on our own, because the reality is that other scenario, I probably could have project managed us through that, and at the end of the day, it would have felt like, oh, great. We did a great job with that. And of course we would have seen God's provision.
Right.
But to walk through this experience in such a way where it was like, there is no other way except for divine intervention to make this possible.
Well, and even the signing of the lease was a miracle. And I won't say what it was, but it was just, there were no funds, and, the church did offer you something that was just an incredible gift, and, like a long-term lease, well,
that was one of my
many years.
Absolutely. When we first met with them, that was the question I asked, because they had never done anything like this before either. And so that was my question is, are you looking to do something short-term, long-term? Because for us to invest, obviously we need that long-term agreement.
Well, you're changing lives. You don't want to bring women in for 2 years and then be like, oh, we got to go find another place.
Exactly.
And we got to go. That doesn't work.
Exactly. Yeah. So to have that long-term, 30-year lease and, it's essentially free.
I wasn't going to say it, but I
don't know if they want me to say it, so I won't say it.
It's as close to free as you can get without being free. Let's put it that way.
It's the best deal. Yeah. It's the best rental deal. Actually, what I should say is our other home, we have also rented from a church in LA for $1 a year. So it's a little bit steeper than
It's a little bit steeper than $1. That's true.
Steeper than $1 a year.
For triple the space, but in the new place.
Exactly.
And, it's just the way the Lord's provided. Again, to provide a home for $1 a year is insane. To provide the building you have now, the Pico home, for what it is mind-blowing. It really is. For people that have walked in the space, I love the space. I've been in it several times. But to walk in that space, it's so beautiful. It's so incredible. It houses so many women. It can do so many things. And to realize oh no, this is fully the provision in the hand of God is insane. So, okay, so take us back. So you've walked through, you signed the lease. You're like, we're going to need renovations. We need a capital campaign because we got to be able to do the work. We got to get this ready for the women. You had a beautiful plan to launch that in May of 2020 that obviously came crashing down in March when COVID hit, and suddenly women and men can't go visit the home to see what it's all about, to see what they're giving into. And so the plans have completely changed. So what, did you put it on pause? What happened at that point?
We just kept slowly moving forward. But I think what has been the theme is just the right things at the right time.
Yeah.
So all of the resources, the right people, and it's beyond what we could have planned for, right?
Yeah.
Those are the things. I think the only difference between fundraising and robbery It's like, I think sometimes in fundraising, we think that we have control. The reality is, I can't dig into someone's pockets and like grab their wallet, right? I think that,
be like, this is what you're going to give.
Right. That God is so at the core of that. And so it was this trust building thing of God going before us. Recognizing that has always been the case, that he knew he knew COVID was happening. He knew this house was happening. And even though we don't, like, we're still just going to, by faith, just take the next step. And so I think about, there was the architecture group that came in. They literally came in and donated their services,
which is amazing. And I mean, labor services.
So we had to hire a contractor, but like all of the planning, in fact, after the first year that they worked with us, because it was, a couple year process to get it all done, we asked them, for them to give us essentially the statement of their services for the year so we could include it in our taxes.
Of course.
And it was almost $1 million worth of donated services that they had paid their people on their team to do, which obviously, like, that never would have been within our budget. And then the care and attention that architecture group, like, they loved our mission so much.
I was just thinking about it.
So when you walk in the home, you can feel it.
You can feel it.
You can feel that this wasn't, I mean, that's the thing in general is sometimes I struggle to explain to people what Harvest Home's all about, because we're not a shelter. Like, we shelter women, but we're not a shelter. When women walk in, it feels like home. And the attention to detail and women feeling really like worthy and dignified and like it's a place that they're proud. They may not want to be in the situation that they're in and walking through the challenges they're walking through, but to be in a place where they feel like they're treated with dignity and respect. And that is so at the heart of who we were. And so to have this partner come alongside that was just so into the details and just beautiful things. Like, they had somebody that donated wallpaper that, just wouldn't have been within our, within our budget to do. And so just seeing those, it was just this incredible care, that we just felt cared for and loved by God, through the whole process. And so, so that bit, and same on the donor side of, just the people who came around the table. And even before COVID, we did what's called a feasibility study, talking to donors and just getting a sense of like,
would this work?
Would people invest in this project? And I remember the fundraising company that was helping us called me, and they're like, we've never had this happen before. And I was like, you've never had what happen before? And they're like, well, your feasibility study, like, we got a third of the commitment for the entire project
from that,
just from like 2 conversations that we had today.
Wow.
And so it was just this incredible, again, like, faith building thing of, I'm going, I don't know, we've never like had to raise this type of money before. And then here it was, it was just, and I felt like God was consistently saying, like, stop saying no. Like,
ooh, that's a good
stop
word.
saying no to yourself. Stop saying no to me. Just like take that step in trust by faith. I've got this.
He's got this.
Yeah.
So he walked you through, a couple of years of this, obviously the renovations, the home. It's now stunning. It provides for so many women, and it's everything in it is just done with excellence. That's really the thing that hits me when I walk in. It's very cheery. It's just beautifully done, which is a credit to the architecture firm, but also to you all and how you've stewarded it. How did walking through this change your perception of like what God, like who God is, really?
I think, one of the experiences I've been walking through myself in the last couple of years is really, truly, I think for the first time in my life, really understanding what God's love looks like.
Ooh, that's so good.
Which, we grow up, or I grew up, my dad was a pastor. And so there's not a time in my life that I can't remember being, steeped in the church and in biblical teaching.
Right.
But I think that foundational truth of God's love is so often in our minds. It's like almost like a nursery rhyme. It's like, Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Like, it's like, yes, I know Jesus loves me. But I think walking through and just going, okay, and just even in this of like all of the work and the striving and going, okay, if I really truly believe that God loves me, that God loves Sarah at the heart of who I am, you know, beyond and in spite of, you know, my failings, beyond my doing, then why am I striving so much? You know, if I truly believe this, you know, why don't I stop and breathe and accept and receive?
Receive. We've been talking about a lot today. It's great.
Receiving. and that is where I think that, you know, at the time it felt like this process of opening this home was going so slowly. And, you know, now I look back, we opened in July of 2022 when women moved in. I'm like, 2 years,
it's
like
not
with
bad.
The COVID world, everything
and
was
renovations.
happening.
You had renovations.
Yeah, because it was the renovations and the fundraising and everything. And I mean, so I look back now and I'm like, oh, that wasn't bad at all.
No.
But I recognize, and can I tell you, like, so the day that we opened, this is a wild story. The day that we opened the home, and it had been, I mean, you know how it is, like with things where it's like false starts 3 times, you know, of like with,
oh my gosh,
with getting our permits and everything fully, you know, so it was like, this is the day they're moving in. And, you know, like when you move into your own house, you go to Target 75 times.
Of course.
You know, forget something. So that day, even though we'd done all this planning, you know, there was a big order that we had to place. And so I go to pick it up. And by the time I get there, there was still a whole other list of things that need to be bought.
Of course.
So I so I went and bought my things. By the time I was done, I had 2 carts, 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Wednesday. And I go out to my car, and my brain was in a million places. But I go out and I can't find my car. My car is nowhere to be found in this Target parking lot, 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh no.
So I walk back. So at some point I'm like, all right, I got to go find my car without the carts because it's too much. Yeah. So I take them back inside. And as I'm going inside, I pass a security guard and I kind of flippantly say, gosh, I feel kind of crazy, but it's almost like my car was stolen. And they look at me and they're like, what kind of car were you driving?
Oh no.
And so I stand there for a second. They go and check cameras, and they're like, somebody drove your car off the lot at 3:20.
Sarah!
So this is the day of this, what I would call like the culmination of like God's like, you know, this is the birthing of provision, this birthing, this like big day of celebration. And it felt like the biggest possible distraction that there could
completely. It's warfare, totally, up until the last minute.
Totally. Yeah. And so so
your car really was stolen.
My car really was stolen the day we were opening, and I've got these parts. So I call a colleague and I'm like, hey, could you come pick me up with all the stuff, you know, for the rest of today? For today, because my car was stolen. And the reason I mention that is because it felt like this phase of Harvest Home, like the mission and the depth and all that. It's not about this house. It's
beyond that.
The physicality of it, right? It is about the hundreds and thousands of women whose families, 2 generations of their families are going to be transformed through this home. And so in that moment, I was like, to me, that was not a like one more barrier to get through. Yeah. To me, that was the confirmation.
I was just going to say, it was confirmation of how powerful this is. This is
exactly where we're supposed to be. And what is supposed to be happening.
So good.
And also like, it's just the beginning.
It is.
It's just the beginning. And so it's been, you know, and that was wild. I actually did get my car back.
Amazing. Yeah, also wild.
Got the car back. So, but I think it's just wild that, you know, just
it
all
would be
of
the same
things,
day. It would be that fits so much.
Day.
Wow.
Have you watched the show? Do you know the show, The Good Place? Do you know this TV show?
I know of it. I haven't watched it, but I know of it. Yeah.
So it's, you know, very not theologically correct, this like heaven place. Yeah. But they talk about in that the timeline spells out Jeremy Bearimy in cursive.
Okay.
It's a comedy, right? So it's like this very quirky thing. But that's often what I think of in this, of like the end point or the starting point and the end point are like kind of clear. We had this vision, we knew, but the like in between, the things that we had to go through, you know.
Well, you think like, here's A, here's B, it's going to be a straight line. And the Lord's like, nope, we're going to go through a forest. We're going to go down a valley. We're going to go up a mountain. We're going to go around this hill. We're going to go like, it's literally like, You're like, oh, this would be straight and easy. And it's like, no, actually it's not. You're going to end up there, the same destination, and you're going to end up there so much better and able to care for it. And now you're in a place where you all can care for so many more women.
Yes.
Which is crazy. I mean, tell me how, as a result of this story and what the Lord has done through this new building, and I can still call it new. It's a few years old, but I still call it new. The Pico home. How has that changed your perception of like what's possible in your life and what's possible for God to do?
Yeah. I think that what it's encouraged me to do is to believe in big things, to dream big things. I feel like, and to some degree, we're here again, and I can share more with you about like what that looks like. But I think that is the thing of there's times where I think we have an idea, and I know you've experienced in this your life over and over again, where it's like, wait, is that? I don't really know if this is my idea because it feels like a lot of work, honestly. It's like, would I really want to choose that? Yes. But when there is that such a clear calling, and the sense that when God calls us, He really does equip.
Yes.
And recognizing that equipping doesn't always look like what we think it's going to look like or what it needs to look like.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, even the provision for this project of what we thought that was going to look like. I mentioned we worked with this fundraising firm. We ended up, because of COVID and everything else, we're like, we kind of pivoted. And now I recognize like their very textbook strategy they put together, I'm sure would have been fine.
Right.
But you know what? Like God provided in
a whole different way,
very different ways, and in a very much in a just-in-time way. But I have to tell you, if this whole thing had been funded and we were just doing the work, it wouldn't have had that. It wouldn't have felt as miraculous.
I was going to say it's truly a miracle.
Yes,
I mean, it is.
It really would have. It always would have been God's provision.
Yes,
but I don't know that we would have seen it in the same light that we do.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's really. This whole journey through the stops and starts and even the difficulties of trying to do the campaign during COVID and trying to do renovations during COVID. And I mean, all of that is just messy, but that actually made this beautiful miracle that you can look at and say, I just love that you're like, actually, we have more value for it now.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It would have always been a blessing. It would have always been beautiful, but you value it so differently because of everything you had to walk through to get it.
Yeah.
And to actually open the doors up until even the car being stolen, like up until the moment the doors opened. And that just, to me, it says how powerful what you all are doing and how important it is in LA, that it was battled in all these different areas. And the Lord just kept pushing through and kept providing and kept providing. And it's such a gift, such a gift. So tell me, what are we dreaming for? Can you share on the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, sure, of course. Yeah. So, I shared that when we initially were thinking about expanding to a second home, the other question at the time was, what would it look like to serve women for longer?
Yes.
And one of the things, so we have a very vibrant alumni community.
Yes.
So, while women are in our program, it's this whole person approach, all areas of their lives, they have this opportunity to grow in just tremendous ways.
Yeah.
And I want to be really clear that like we provide this opportunity, but they're the ones who are doing the hard work. They're the ones who are showing up every day and saying like, I'm going to do what it takes to change the future, not only, for my child, but for myself. And so over the time, we have a very vibrant alumni community, and through those relationships, we're able to see like, what are the challenges that are 2, 3, 4 years ahead, after they graduate. And what we've seen over time is there's really this, what I call this like 3-legged stool of stability. So women need housing, a job, and childcare. And, I was like, when I say childcare, to say quality childcare.
Quality childcare. Yeah.
That is
safe childcare.
And safe housing.
And safe housing. Yeah.
So there's, for those things to come together at the same time, geographically in the same place, like there's challenges there.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. And we also recognize, you've seen the home, you see how beautiful it is. Women are, when they move out, they're ready to be independent and be on their own, and they're capable of being independent and being on their own. But sometimes like the communities that they are able to move into don't feel safe to them.
No, that's true.
They either that, they're in a building, for lack of a better term, with like a slumlord that doesn't take good care of the property, or, they have neighbors that they don't feel safe around. And so we really, for the last couple of years, have said, like, what would it look like for Harvest Home to open an apartment building for our alumni? Where they're paying rent, right? They're working, they're paying rent,
but it's safe.
It's safe, and there's the continued communal support. I mean, that is,
and they can bring their children there. It's not. It's safe for their child, children, and not just
exactly. And they know who their neighbors are. There are other women, that are in our community.
Still in that community,
and they could have continued, therapy and case management, and
that's so good. Wow.
And then if we'll take it a next level, and let's put a childcare center on the first floor, so that women
there's
could
safe
have
childcare and reliable
on site, and so we just need several $1 million or an apartment building to drop out of the sky.
Which, you have a convent that dropped out of the sky. You have a house in Venice. So, I mean, this could be the third property that the Lord just...
redefine possible.
I love that. Oh, I love it. No, and that's what this whole thing is about. It's about, breaking off the limiting mindsets. Like, where have we put limits on God? How, and when the Lord makes the impossible thing possible, as he's done for you and for Harvest Home, really multiple times, but certainly in a massive way in housing, it just feels like, that would be the next step. Like, because that is such a need, and I don't see anyone else fitting that need right now that I know of in LA. And it is, and the Lord's just fierce for his daughters. Like, he's fierce for his sons and daughters both, but he's fierce for the orphans. He's fierce for children. And I just, I mean, why wouldn't he provide it? Like, why?
Exactly.
Why wouldn't he?
Why wouldn't he?
Yeah. I mean, I just think that's so amazing. So for folks who want to get connected with Harvest Home, want to maybe pray with you, give into, I'm assuming there is a way they can give into Harvest Home, whether it's time, volunteering, donating things, financially giving. How can they connect with you? How can they connect with Harvest Home? Where can they go?
Yeah, so our website is harvesthomela.org. And all the info's there about ways to get involved.
Oh, perfect.
Certainly, there are lots of ways for people inside in LA, outside of LA to get involved. I love that you mentioned prayer.
I mean, number one, always. Yeah.
Yes, that is, I think, what we need, just to know that I think what I love about prayer is that we do not even know.
We don't even know
all of the people out there that are lifting us up on a daily basis. And man, I don't know a quicker way to get this apartment building done than to have people all over the country praying for it to happen.
Truly, it's prayer changes things, and it's that, I know that. I mean, we've both walked in that, and it changes lives. It changes the atmosphere. It changes. I mean, the earth shifts to the power of prayer. And so it just is, because it's God's language. Like, that's the thing. It has to shift to the voice of the Creator. So what I love about that is I see that I'm like, everyone everywhere can be praying for
Absolutely.
this.
Everybody everywhere. Yeah. And then for those people, people that are everybody everywhere who has financial, capacity and ability, we are always welcome when God, kindles someone's heart and their generosity in our direction. And so there's information how you can support financially. And then people in LA, we love volunteers.
Yes. And it's a fun place to volunteer.
It is a fun place for people to spending time with babies and moms, but even things like helping us organize donations.
Yes.
You mentioned, donations we have. Yeah. And I think it's one of the things that women actually have shared from their experience of Harvest Home is most women end up in the situation they're in because of lack of some kind of support system,
right.
Whether it's familial or, a relationship with a partner that's unsafe. And so to be in a place where there are people, you're just surrounded by people who love and care for you. So both the staff, then also volunteers. I think it feels just so loving and so caring when women see, like, this person doesn't know me, but yet they're showing up here on a, Tuesday to help keep the garden or to help, do the donation. So,
and people are treated with dignity. They're all treated with respect. It's a very respect-filled, honoring environment. And I just think that has to be so powerful for the women that are housed there. That is something that probably was missing, that now they're able to step into this place. And it's like, yeah, actually, every day I'm treated with dignity. Every day I'm treated with respect and honor and value.
And isn't that
really powerful?
What's on God's heart?
Yeah, completely.
I think that we too often don't lead out in that place with dignity and respect for folks who are, on the fringes and going through really challenging things. And so I love that is who we're able to show. That's the Jesus that we are showing is
I love that.
Jesus who is walking with them, who is in it, who's in the trenches. And it's just such an honor to be able to be a part of that mission. So.
And for folks who are, like you said, they're in LA. I know you have social media as well. You have Instagram. Remind me.
Yeah, we're
Instagram.
at Harvest Home LA.
At Harvest Home LA. I love it. It's so easy. And then for folks, I would encourage personally, just as someone who's been there, I would encourage anyone who can to come see the building. I think it's really important. It really gives you a scope of the amount of work that's being done and, the women that are there. So I personally would encourage people to do that. And I think through the website, they can connect.
Yeah, they can connect with me. My information's there and would love that. So,
I love it. Well, I'm going to be praying for you. I love this. I'm so excited for just the next level dreams that we're dreaming and the next steps of where Harvest Home is going to go. I can completely see an apartment building for Harvest Home and the women and maybe several. So it's just, it's so exciting. But Sarah, I've loved having you. Thank you so much.
Thanks
for being on Redefining Possible today. I can't wait to hear more about what God does next. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Redefining Possible. I'm your host again, Peyton Hoffman. I cannot wait to see you all next time.
What happens when the thing you've barely dared to dream for actually comes true? How does it change you when what you've been believing for and almost given up hope on finally becomes reality? The Redefining Possible podcast spotlights guests with stories of insurmountable odds who have witnessed the impossible become possible with God.